Hello and welcome to another Dark Mount video review. This is the final video review for the last unique mold in the Generation Series 2 Wave 4 Deluxe Assortment, the Minicon Assault Team. Now this figure is kind of serves a dual purpose in the Generations line, in that it is both an homage to the Minicons of the Unicron trilogy, and also kind of a loose representation of a group that was introduced in the new comics, in the IDW comics. There's a group in the new comics called the Centaurians that, much like the Cybertronians, split into two warring factions a very, very long time ago. And this is a group that is meant to represent just a small number of characters from one of those factions. That doesn't entirely work because they don't actually look this way in the comics. There is a cover, and then obviously the IDW Hasbro Pack-In cover also has them on there. But in the retail release comics, there's only a single cover that has these guys pictured this way, and throughout the rest of the comics they look pretty different. So they're kind of more of a nod to the idea and the color scheme than they are comic accurate in their portrayal. But it's still a really cool idea, and since the characters in the comics are actually omni-combinational, and they all look kind of generic and combine in like thousands of different ways, it would be really difficult to pull that off with toys, and if they did, it would probably be something akin to like the, I don't know, like the Crash Landing Entry Bumblebee and Optimus that came out for the movie line, only in Minicon form, that just kind of plugged together. Like, it would be some kind of terrible thing that everyone would ridicule for years and years to come. So I'm glad they actually didn't try to go comic accurate, because it would have been a travesty as far as I'm concerned. What they chose to do instead is use that concept, but also give us kind of an homage from the Minicons that we knew in the Unicron trilogy. So you actually get more Earth-specific vehicle modes. They still have their own individual robot modes, and they also combine into a single combined form, who is known as Centuritron. That's a really cool gimmick, and I like the fact that they're kind of straddling both the comic universe and giving us an homage to the Unicron trilogy. That's a cool solution to something that would have been pretty difficult to pull off if they had gone for a straight comic accuracy. So, in their vehicle forms, I think Heavy Tread is probably my favorite. Heavy Tread is the tank, and then we have Runway, who is a jet, and I am actually forgetting, Windshear is the helicopter here. They're probably organized in order of my liking them, to be honest. The tank is the most cohesive. He doesn't really have any visible robot kibble anywhere on his body. I guess the only thing you could kind of say is maybe the fact that you can see this piece here, but I mean, you can't really tell what that is, so it doesn't bother me none. The only complaint I would have about this figure is that he doesn't have very much painted detail, and all the molded detail kind of gets lost if there's not light shining on it, since it's very, very dark black. That said, it's still kind of a really subtle, interesting effect that all the detail has on there, so I'm not necessarily complaining about that. I just wish there was a little bit more painted detail to pick out maybe some of these things up here. On to Runway. He's probably my second favorite. As with most jet formers, big or small, it's pretty much just a compressed robot with a jet on his back. You got all kinds of robot kibble. Got arms and head plainly visible, and legs folded up here. That's not to say he's bad. It doesn't take up very much room, and it's not super visible from the top, so it's not one of those jet formers like, I don't know, let's say the first movie Starscream, where you had like twice as much robot hanging under the jet as you did actual jet. He looks good from the top. These kind of look like they're supposed to be guns or lasers or something like that. He looks decent from the side. It's just pretty obvious from the bottom. But like I said, jet formers, we should kind of be used to this at this point. Oops. He has a little bit better on the paint scheme. He's got some paint here and there and there. I don't know why he got more paint ops than this guy. I'm not really sure how their budget was worked out for these guys, but it's, again, this is not terrible. It's just kind of nitpicking on my part that I wish there was a little bit more paint on him. Now, I love helicopters. Helicopters are probably my favorite man-made vehicle, like modern day vehicle, but I'm not a huge fan of this thing, I gotta be honest. I know helicopters are really difficult. Every time they try to do a helicopter, one mode or the other usually suffers. Surprisingly enough, they did a really good job with Whirl. But this guy I think falls a little short, mostly because of these feet. I know they're technically supposed to serve as the landers, but it just doesn't look good, and it doesn't hold the thing at a pose that really makes sense for a helicopter. This should really be much straighter across here. I mean, the helicopter's not supposed to sit down like that, so I don't know. I like helicopters a lot, so I have a high standard for what they should look like. And this seems kind of lazy. This is just kind of a folded up robot body with a helicopter tail and cockpit sticking out of its butt and its head. So everything in here doesn't really do it for me. For some size comparisons, we'll pull out another silly looking helicopter. This is the Target Master that came with the Bumblebee in the first assortment of Generations mini guys. And here is Bumblebee himself. So you can see that they're about the size of the Generations Legends figures, which is pretty cool. It's a good size for a minicon. To transform them, we'll start with Heavy Tread. Now, he's very easy. What you're going to want to do is just kind of pull this whole section here apart. And this part is his weapon, and it will tab into one of these bits that's his hand and fit into the groove right here. And that's how it forms the turret up top. So, you want to split these up. Pull this out of whichever hand it didn't stay in. Fold these entire side panels down here. And you can open the feet out, which are made of the cowcatchers. And then you can open his arms out, they're on little ball joints, and straighten his head out. And that is Heavy Tread. You can make him hold one of his weapons, although it is humorously large. So he has ball-jointed arms. His head is on kind of a strange rotatey bit. And his legs move forward and backward. However, there is no outward movement. There is no knee bend, and you get both foot and heel articulation. Off to the side. Next, for runway, what you want to do is unpeg the arms from the sides here, and you can just pull these legs out and stretch them out that way. This entire back portion will unplug, pegs in right here, and straighten the legs out, open the feet. Then you want to fold this entire jet panel down, and this hole right here will peg onto the peg that is right between the legs. And that will hold these two leg bits together. And you can give him his weapon. And there you have Runway in his robot mode. He too has ball-jointed arms, also ball-jointed legs and knees, which have a lot of articulation due to transformation. And you have the toe articulation. He has no head movement. Now on to wind shear. There's a slight problem with wind shear that a lot of people seem to be having, and that this portion right here likes to pop off a lot during transformation and during the combination sequence. I have definitely had that problem, so I think that's a pretty widespread issue. There's no kind of pin or anything in there to hold it on. It's just kind of clamped on there with pressure, and since this is kind of not super thick plastic, it doesn't hold on super well. What you want to do here is unpeg the legs from the inside and straighten them out. Unpin the arms from the side of the top of the helicopter. You can fold the blade up at this point. And then you want to fold this entire portion down until it clicks. Then you can fold this back, and it will become kind of a stand helping her stand. And there you have wind shear in robot mode. And you can put the gun in the arm. Although on my figure these arm joints are pretty loose, so it is a little floppy. You have all three of them, strangely destroying my white balance. Be right back. And we're back. For some reason the monumental amount of green in this review is really messing with my white balance and making everything kind of blue, so hopefully YouTube autocorrect can take care of that. If not, I apologize for the blue shaded review. So in their robot modes, I'm pretty fond of all of them. Wind shear definitely pulls off a more convincing robot mode than she does a helicopter mode. And it's nice that she has that, you know, standing support, so you don't have to worry about her falling over backwards, because those legs don't look like they'd support her very well without it. This guy is probably on the less stable side out of all three of them. He doesn't really have any heel support. You can kind of pull these back a little bit, but due to the high hinge they're on, the second you pull them back, they're not really touching the ground anymore, so it really doesn't help very much. What I've found helps the most is just making sure his knees are completely straight, because it moves his center of balance just enough that he won't fall over. Heavy tread is by far the most stable since he has the giant feet. Now in their robot modes, these guys are about the size of one of the Prime Cyberverse figures. And significantly larger than the Target Masters that come with the Legends figures. So they're decently sized figures for minicons. I think they're a little bit bigger, I think they're a little bit bigger than the actual minicons that we got in days of old. However, that's definitely not something I'm going to complain about. They're good kind of Cyberverse sized figures, which is really nice. Alright, and I guess now we will start the combination sequence. I'm going to go ahead and remove their weapons for now, just you know, for ease of throwing their arms across the room. So first I'm going to start off with heavy tread here. I'm going to just fold his arms back like this. Make sure this clip and hole are pointing straight up as much as possible. And then you're going to just split both of these legs right here and turn him around. And he will form the legs of the combined mode. Next, what you're going to want to do is move this guy's hands up and open this back up. You'll notice the leg joints are actually on a couple different sliders, so you can kind of swing those around and they will fit into a groove in the wing. And then there is a tab on the back end of the pelvis here that will tab loosely into a spot on the back of the wing. Right there. You can fold this up, which reveals his hand, and do the same on the other side. Once you've done that, we're going to want to fold this back up. And I just leave the arms out until we get into the actual combined mode, because there are a couple different places you can put them. And you can set this off to the side. Now this is the part where Windshielders, this part right here usually pops off at least once or twice. So if that does happen, I apologize in advance. You want to open up the entire back portion right here. That will reveal the combiner head. You can just rotate that out, and there we go. That didn't take long at all. Combiner head out, and then close this back up as much as you can. And you can also kind of leave these up like this. And you can close this back up and leave the legs and the tail kind of sticking out to the back. So the first thing you want to do is take these two pieces, and this head is going to stick into this hole, and these clips are going to clip onto this section in the back right here. So you can kind of put your finger right in here for support, hold it like this, line it up, and clip. And it doesn't take very much pressure at all, so I wouldn't be too worried about snapping it or anything like that. Now the next part is a little more tricky due to that piece that constantly likes to fall off of Windshear. There's a hole right here, this bottom hole right there, and another hole right here. The back hole right here is going to peg into this main peg up here. This part, the tip of the jet, is actually going to fit into that part and keep these separated properly. So very loosely, and without, you want to try to avoid putting any kind of pressure on this part right here because it will just keep popping off. I usually try to hold it up here. And you're going to want to line up the front part and the back part and slide it down. And now at this point there's pretty much, you can do whatever you want with arms. I mean, I usually put these here and kind of tuck these under them as much as possible. Because that really helps the most to try to fill out that chest a little bit so you don't have giant gapping. And then you can swing him around onto the back, fold this whole part down, and it will peg into the back there. And then you can just fold up the legs as if they were in vehicle mode, and they will kind of tuck very neatly up to the side. And there you have the Minicon Assault Team, or Centuritron, in his combined robot form. And I have to say, this guy is awesome. I'm a really big fan of this set. It's really cool that they got 3 Minicons that have decent robot modes. One of them's, vehicle modes. One of them's a little weak, granted, but none of them are bad, and all 3 of their individual robot modes are cool. And this guy is just really cool. He still retains a decent amount of articulation, since it's using the leg ball joints of one of the Minicon team. The legs formed by Heavy Tread actually have a lot more articulation than Heavy Tread's individual legs did, since they're split apart and they don't have to rely on these knee joints. Which you do have. You have forward and backward knee joints on here. And you have the same foot articulation that Heavy Tread had. Unfortunately, you don't get any head articulation out of this, but to be perfectly honest, I think that would be asking for a little much. Now his weapons can also combine. They have several different pegs and tabs on each one, so you can combine them in a number of different ways. They do have a 3 combination. That you can do, like this. But I'm not a huge fan of that. So I usually stick this on top of here to create kind of a triple-barreled weapon, and leave this one separate. And there you have him with his weapons. And fully transformed. For size comparison, here he is next to his wavemate, Starscream. And we'll also put him next to Trail Cutter Breaker. So he is a tad bit on the shorter side, as you can see, but not by enough that I'm like feeling gypped or anything. I think this guy is really fantastic. It's really interesting that they got a couple different size classes in there. You've got some really great detail and some really great paint apps. The unified color scheme, which I thought I was originally going to really dislike, actually works really well for the combined mode, and it looks like a coherent figure. There is a little bit of gapping in the chest, so there's that, but the arms really help you to cover it up a lot, and to be honest, it's a deluxe figure made up of a bunch of minicons, so there's going to be some gapping. I'm not really appalled by that. I'm more impressed by the fact that they got it to look so damn good. This is a really interesting figure. I can't say I expected this much. I really thought I was going to dislike it. I thought that this would probably be my least favorite in the wave. I actually expected to like Scoop more than this, and I'm not even a huge Scoop fan, but this guy might actually be my favorite of this wave. I'm a big fan of Whirl. I like Scoop. I like Armada Starscream, but this guy just does a lot more. He does something we haven't really seen in a long time, and he does it well, which is exactly what the Generations line is supposed to be, in my opinion. It's them kind of taking older ideas that worked really well and making them work a little bit better, and maybe throwing in an homage or two in the mix. And they pulled that off brilliantly with this figure. So far, this whole wave is a win, in my opinion. But if you're only going to pick one of them up, I might actually suggest that it is this guy. He's just awesome. Alrighty, well, that is it for the deluxe And Voyager releases of the thrilling 30 Generations line for a while. It looks like the next ones we're going to be getting are going to be Rat Trap, the Skids retool and recolor for Crosscut, and the Tankor figure based on the Beast Machines TV look of Tankor. So we're finally getting a TV accurate Tankor, which is awesome. After that, there's going to be a Nightbeat retool of Special Ops Jazz, a G-Haxis that is making use of the Armada Starscream model, and a Windblade, who is the fan-built bot. So I'm looking forward to seeing her toy. I'm looking forward to Rat Trap and Tankor. I'm not going to be getting the retools or the recolors of any of them, to be honest. I don't usually get recolors or retools. So look forward to Rat Trap, Tankor, and Windblade, and there are some rumors of possibly a Voyager Leader Class Jetfire Generations figure, and someone's talking about the Megatron. None of these have been officially confirmed. I haven't seen them yet, but if they're coming, I'm probably going to be getting those, because I do not have a good Jetfire in my collection. I didn't get the old Generations, or Universe, or whatever it was, figure. I didn't like it much. And I do not have a Megatron to represent his new tank body in the IDW universe, so if they're going to put one out for that, that would also possibly be kind of a G1 homage. I will be on board for those two as well. So look out for those. I'll be doing a bunch of other kind of backlog reviews, and I will be doing some Fans Project reviews, and probably other stuff that I can't even think of right now. Alrighty guys, thanks very much for watching. See you next time.